Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a little while since we posted anything. We've just been super swamped building a few vehicles for a few shows down in North Carolina we had a few weeks back. Finally getting back at it, starting to do some filming again, just wrapping up a few other projects that kind of been lingering the last few weeks. This is an 88 Land Rover Defender 90 we just wrapped up for a good customer of ours. This came to us a few years back to originally get a engine swap done in it. It had the old diesel TDI motor in it. Customer asked us to do either a small block or an LS. We ended up doing a Gen 5 5.3 LT motor out of a 2017 Silverado with a 8L90 four-wheel drive unit. Aesthetically, really hasn't changed too much. It's came to us painted with the wheels. The grille has been changed up over the years. Interior is pretty much the same. We just put a new set of bucket seats in it. A little more comfort. When we originally did the swap, we did a Texas Speed Stage 2 truck cam, springs, push rods. Nothing too crazy, just had a set of cast manifolds on it, a custom exhaust setup. It was a 2.5 into a single 3-inch out. It was originally all-wheel drive. We used a RW Engineering transfer case adapter from the stock transfer case to the GM 8L90E. Customer has driven it for quite a few years, but as with anything he drives, it does get boring after so many years. So we brainstormed the idea of getting more power out of it, as well as converting it to rear-wheel drive. So we ditched the transfer case adapter, got rid of the all-wheel drive on the transmission itself, and went back to a rear-wheel drive tailstock setup. We lowered the motor transmission down, pushed it back a bit in the chassis to allow the room for the supercharger. With the help of Harrop Performance, we did put one of their 2650 supercharger units on this. Not a whole lot of internal modifications for the engine, as it was already built with camshaft springs and whatnot, so it didn't really need too much more as far as that goes. It's not making too much on PSI right now. It's about 8 PSI. It now has a strange S60 rear end, so it can handle all sorts of power. As far as that goes, had a custom drive shaft made as well. It now has a full custom dual exhaust system with an H-pipe, Borla Pro XS mufflers coming out the back. Originally it came out the one side. Customer requested us to do dual tips out each side underneath the tube bumper that's back here. Kind of a sleek look. You really don't notice it too much, but it sync sounds great. So here's the heart of the Land Rover Defender 90. We went back and forth quite a bit on the supercharger selection, as we were looking at Whipples and magnet chargers, but we ultimately decided on the Harrop, as it was the lowest profile design that we keep under the stock hood. That was the biggest thing the customer wanted, was low profile, make a very stock appearance. Didn't want to cut the hood, didn't want to do a different hood that was on it. So we managed to use their 2650 unit. Had to work with them quite a bit, as they had never done a 5.3 LED3 engine setup like this. They're working on a kit at the moment, but this was kind of a unique setup. We end up using the L8T66 GM accessories on the front. So we had to do their drive snout, power steering, basically everything, water pump, crank pulley, alternator, basically everything on the front. Use the factory throttle body to a 4-inch intake system that gets basically just plumbed into the front wheel well area, get away from the motor. It was a ton of trial and error to get this to work. Like I said, we had to move the motor down and back to get it to where we needed to go for the clearance for the accessories in the front here, as we have electric fans. We have a intercooler in the front here. We have a tranny cooler. So there was quite a bit of things to compact under this hood. We had to move the ECU to the back of the firewall. Fuel pressure regulator had kind of stayed. Had to redo some of the bottles here as the intercooler reservoir. We had to move the power steering reservoir. Added a catch can to it as well. We took the truck a few weeks back to Dobson Performance Garage in Michigan and had it dyno tuned by Dr. Phil. He's done a few of the builds for us, and it's a phenomenal tuner. Got the 8-speed working fantastic now. It drives way better. It didn't really need any more power, it just needed the drivability taken care of. So he got that dialed in. We did some road testing, did about 12 to 15 dyno pulls. Ultimately made about 490 horsepower to the wheels. We did run out of injector, so we may end up throwing some bigger injectors in it, maybe pulling it down a bit and seeing if we can get 550 or so to the wheels. But this thing's a lot of fun, very unsuspecting when you're cruising around in it. Fairly quiet when just cruising, but when you get on it, it just wakes up. It's really nice sound, nice supercharger whine, but nothing too much. A lot of hours went into designing and building this. There is some companies out there that do offer these in the LT4 10-speed setups. Basically a crate motor right out from GM, which is very nice, but we opted for something a little bit different. Still made really good power on this 5.3. I mean, it probably has a little bit more in it. We're not going to push it too hard, as it's probably not going to take much more than 550, 600 horsepower, but we don't really plan to. This thing being rear-wheel drive and the wheelbase of it, it doesn't need too much more power. This was definitely a fun build to do. It's been a few months in the making, getting this thing dialed in, making sure everything is good, as the customer likes to enjoy his vehicles and drive them and beat on them. So yeah, you'll see it out cruising this year, some shows.